The saying goes, a best friend is one soul abiding in two bodies. It's an unbreakable bond that stands the test of time.
They really believed they were family. They were sisters, not biological sisters, but they referred to themselves as sisters and best friends.
They spent a lot of time together, you know. All the things the teenage girls did, they did together, and they were inseparable.
And when a woman finds love in a partner, it's an even deeper soul tie that knows no bounds.
Nice looking guy, tall, brown skinned, muscular, very well dressed, smelled so good.
I thought that he was a real respectful young man. He had a strong faith in God.
Sometimes what appears to be true love is nothing but pure evil.
He has started controlling and dominating her life.
She had cuts along her face. The road rash on her was terrible. Her clothes were tattered and torn.
But relentless devotion to a lover can sever the tight bonds of friendship.
Women are put into positions to where they end up doing something that they don't necessarily want to do because of the actions of their partners.
She just kept saying, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me.
October 17th, 2015, Dearborn, Michigan.
Dearborn is approximately 26 square miles. It sits on the west side of Detroit. Detroit borders it on three sides of our city.
It is a good mix of every different nationality background with a lot of culture in it.
Just before midnight, a man driving along Interstate 94 spots a terrifying sight. A woman, obviously badly hurt, running across the highway and waving her arms for help.
She was saying, hey, I'm been kidnapped, I need help immediately. They're going to come back and kill me. She just kept saying, they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me.
The woman jumps into the man's car and begs for help. Thankfully, there's a gas station still open at the bottom of the off-ramp.
Detroit police officers just happened to be at the gas station when this car pulled up, and the gentleman got out and said, I have this girl, she just jumped in my car. She said she was kidnapped. Police started looking at him, believing he might have been involved somehow, because her injuries were so extensive that they just couldn't believe this story that they were hearing.
Officers turn to the injured woman and try to get more information about what's happened.
The injured woman identified herself as 21-year-old LaToya Britton.
LaToya was born in the Detroit area and was raised by her mother. As a teenager, she never had trouble making friends.
I met LaToya in 8th grade, and since then, me and LaToya been thick as thieves, best friends.
LaToya and Patricia, they spent a lot of time together, you know, going to dinner, talking to boys, dressing alike, all the things the teenage girls did, they did together, and they were inseparable. LaToya came from a one-parent home. It was just her mother raising her. So she did happen to spend quite a bit of time at our home.
We was, man, like sisters. She called my mama and daddy, mama and daddy. She was the first person I told I was pregnant. She was the only one I knew. He was like 15.
With the baby's father out of the picture, Patricia leaned on LaToya for support.
Most girls would say, you know what, we're not on the same level anymore. But she just maintained that friendship, that bond with Patricia.
Patricia also relied on her close and loving family.
We had a beautiful bungalow house, me and my mom, my dad. That was nice. I just went to school, took my baby to daycare, and I had support of my mom and dad.
A lot of times when we think about young mothers who haven't finished high school, they feel like, oh, my life is over, I have to raise a child, there's nothing left for me. But Patricia wasn't that way. She still wanted to finish high school.
I'm getting older. I didn't want to live with my parents anymore. I wanted to provide, I wanted to work. I decided I love to cook. By then I was working at the hospital as a cook.
Living on her own, Patricia still stayed tight with her folks, and together they found a new church.
I was active in church, she was active in church, and we just was there, a permanent fixture.
For Patricia, church soon became about more than just a rousing sermon. There was also a handsome man who caught her eye.
Nice looking guy, tall, brown skinned, muscular, very well dressed, smelled so good.
Patricia sees Terrell Smith in church and thought that she may have found a good one this time. He's into church and he's interacting with her young son.
I thought that he was a real respectful young man. He had a strong faith in God. He was always there. Just a nice young man.
While Patricia and LaToya were carving their own paths, they managed to stay in touch.
For them to still be friends after all of that time says a lot about their relationship and the love they have for each other.
But now, police want to know how LaToya wound up riddled with injuries in the back of a man's vehicle.
That driver I had interviewed, he was immediately looked at as a suspect by Detroit Police Department until he was able to be cleared when LaToya confirmed his story.
Officers aren't able to get much information from LaToya before she's rushed to the hospital, but they alert dispatch that she's on her way.
I got a call in the middle of the night that a young lady had been kidnapped and that my team and I needed to respond and find out what happened to her.
At the time, the information that I was provided is that a male and a female subject had kidnapped another female subject, had placed her in the trunk of the car, and were driving her eastbound on I-94 from the city of Dearborn into the city of Detroit. And at some point during this incident, the female that was in the trunk of the car popped the trunk using the emergency hatch and was able to jump out of the car onto I-94.
Detectives arrive at the hospital hoping LaToya can provide more information about her kidnappers.
She was completely distraught when we first saw her. She was all bandaged up along her arms and her legs. She had cuts along her face. She had just jumped from a car doing approximately 70 miles an hour down the expressway, timing it not to get hit by other cars. So the road rash on her was terrible.
LaToya can barely speak, but what she does say shocks Detective Wilson.
LaToya immediately said, "This was my best friend who did this to me, Patricia Jernigan, and her boyfriend Terrell."
In the early morning hours of October 18, 2015, Dearborn detectives are trying to piece together what happened to 21-year-old LaToya Britton. LaToya claims she was kidnapped by two people, Terrell Smith and her own best friend, Patricia Jernigan.
She's describing her best friend and her best friend's boyfriend capturing her, and he had a gun in hand. The initial conversation with LaToya was very minimal. It was more about taking care of her injuries and working on the information that we had. She said that her cell phone was taken from her. So step one was locate the cell phone, locate Patricia, and locate Terrell. We didn't know if Patricia was a victim in this case or if she was a willing participant. So the goal was to make sure she was safe, because the initial information that we had from LaToya was Terrell was the one with a gun.
I started contacting the cell phone providers to get call detail records, as well as their cell tower location information.
While the forensics team works on tracking LaToya Britton's cell phone, Detective Wilson heads over to speak to LaToya, who was just released from the hospital.
The follow-up interview was done in her living room. She was still dealing with her significant injuries, I sat down in the chair in the living room there and spoke with her in detail about this. She starts telling me that Patricia has been her childhood best friend. Patricia was really doing well for herself, that she had a great family, and that once she had met Terrell, that things had just changed, that Terrell, he was very controlling.
Terrell insisted on knowing everything about Patricia's friends, especially LaToya.
She said that Terrell had always been jealous of their friendship, that there's no way that two females could be that close to each other, that have that good of a relationship or friendship. So there was always that jealousy that he harbored for LaToya.
LaToya says she wasn't comfortable with the situation and cut off all contact with Patricia. The two friends did not speak or text for months. Then, in mid-October of 2015, LaToya is contacted by her one-time best friend.
Patricia said she wanted to reconnect their friendship and go to dinner.
Patricia picks LaToya up from her home, and they're on their way to have dinner. Patricia stops the car down the street, and she's like, hey, let me put the restaurant in the GPS, which is normal.
Patricia had grabbed LaToya's cell phone when Terrell had came out of a set of bushes that were around a corner.
LaToya runs down the street. Terrell catches her and hits her in the head with the gun.
He had pushed LaToya into the trunk of the car at that point and had grabbed her breasts and had threatened her to the point where she was fearful and had to cooperate with his demands.
LaToya is saying how she's been forced into this trunk. There's no way that she knows where she's being taken to. She's thinking, I can scream and maybe somebody will hear me. However, she notices that they're turning the music up louder and louder. She's noticing the car is accelerating, so they can't hear, or anybody can't hear her screams.
She said that she was well aware that night she was going to die. Wherever Patricia and Terrell wanted to take her, she wasn't going to survive another day.
LaToya makes the choice that I would rather jump out of a moving vehicle than fear a person taking my life from me.
She remembered looking for that emergency latch in the trunk in order to pull it to hopefully save herself and be able to jump. And when she made that jump and she figured that the timing was safe enough, it's now or never, she was wearing a crossbody purse. The strap had actually caught onto the trunk, so she was dangling for a moment in time, and finally the strap broke. And that's when she was released and tumbled to the ground.
Hearing the details of LaToya's harrowing story raises the stakes for detectives.
The first thing that we do is look at the criminal history. Looking at Patricia's history, she had a very minimal history. There was no reason that she should be involved in something this heinous. But then looking forward at Terrell's history, criminal history, it was extensive. And in fact, he already had a conviction for a previous kidnapping.
On October 17, 2015, a botched kidnapping left LaToya Britton physically and psychologically battered. The next morning, two suspects, Terrell Smith and Patricia Jernigan, are still on the loose, and detectives have only LaToya's missing cell phone to work with.
Initially, with the cell phone pings, we were able to get those under what's called exigent circumstances. And essentially at that point, what we are saying is that there is an emergency, that there's a risk of somebody being hurt and or killed, and that we need to find, this device because we believe it's going to lead us to the suspects.
But someone had turned LaToya's phone off. so there was no way to track the device. Investigators turned to social media as a possible way to find the suspect's location.
In this case, when we were able to serve the search warrant on to the social media sites, we asked them to expedite it due to the nature of the crime, and that we needed to find these people right away, which they were able to do for us.
In the early morning hours of October 19th, the local internet service provider contacts detectives with an IP address that is pinging from inside of a residence located on Detroit's east side.
Once we received this information back from the providers, we in turn gave it to our undercover officers.
Several Detroit PD units quickly scrambled and raced to the address to get into position.
Our undercover crew was watching the house and monitoring any movement that was taking place in the house. That's when they were able to see Terrell, but without him coming out of the house, there was no way to make a safe approach into the house, knowing that Terrell was armed with a handgun.
Just after 1 p.m., detectives observed Terrell drive away in a silver Neon, registered to Patricia Jernigan.
At that point, our undercover team that was watching the house had begun to follow and tail him, calling out every move that he made, every turn. Most people, when they're being followed, are completely unaware, except for he kept looking over his shoulders. You could tell that he was paranoid.
Terrell pulls into a business parking lot and parks near the building.
The parking lot was an area that was ideal for pulling in the undercover cars to surround his car and pin him in. He was taken out of the car and immediately placed on the ground. There wasn't a weapon on him at that point.
As Terrell is taken into custody, Patricia suddenly walks out into the parking lot. Terrell was there to pick her up from work.
Then Patricia came out to see what was happening.
Police came, I seemed like they came out of everywhere, and they screamed and yelling, "I'm under arrest."
And that's when she was brought over to my car. I asked to have a conversation with her about why we were there and what was going on. And we sat down and had a basic girl conversation of what's going on and what information do you have for us.
Yeah, she's like, "You're free to leave, you're not under arrest." It's the only thing I remember. And I remember I kept asking, "I gotta get my son." And she's like, "We gonna let you get your son?"
Patricia's demeanor, I mean, she was nervous. You could hear her voice shaking. You could see the nerves on her. She knew that she needed to give me some sort of story.
First thing is like, don't tell her the truth, lie. You know, lie, maybe she'll let you go. Cause I didn't know, never been in trouble, so it's like, I didn't know.
She said that LaToya had agreed to go to dinner with her and that she was picking her up. There was an argument over some money that LaToya had asked for a cell phone bill. There was some pushing and shoving that occurred, and Patricia had pushed LaToya out of the car, but she denied Terrell's involvement at all during that interaction.
Detectives ask Patricia if she'll come with them to the station for further questioning.
She was quiet the entire ride back to the police department that she agreed to go to. She just sat there quietly, and she kept asking about her son. Her son was her biggest priority. She wanted to get home to her son. She appeared to be remorseful, but she appeared to be very scared and nervous.
On the way to the police station, detectives make Patricia an offer.
I told her that I'd be willing to give her a polygraph in order to clear her from this, in order to see if her story was going to pan out. A truthful person is going to immediately jump all over a polygraph exam. In Patricia's case, she was forthcoming and said, "No, I'm not going to pass this polygraph test."
2 days after the kidnapping of LaToya Britton, suspects Terrell Smith and Patricia Jernigan are both in custody of the Dearborn police. But only Terrell has been placed under arrest.
At that point, she hadn't done anything to place herself in a position where she would be under arrest, but she knew that we needed to talk further. So she agreed to come back to the Dearborn police station where we drove her.
At the Dearborn headquarters, Detective Wilson sits down alone with Patricia.
It's just Patricia and I having this conversation, and at this time she begins to open up more. She knew that there were some issues that were going on. So she basically recounts the whole incident as LaToya tells me.
Help! I remember that night. I never forget this night. I had to get drunk because I was so out of it. I did not want to do it, but I was stuck between this rock and this hard place. I remember driving over there, and I remember texting her, like, I'm outside.
She says that they were going to go to dinner, that Terrell had went to Dollar General to purchase a toy gun because the intention was to get that money that LaToya was borrowing back. She described that this was the plan, to kidnap her, that she was in on the gun being involved, that she had dropped Terrell off initially in those bushes in order for him to rob her, to point this toy gun in her face.
Patricia tells detectives that once Terrell got in the car, things escalated quickly.
I remember her just screaming and crying like, Trish, for real? Trish, for real? And I'm trying to call it off like, Terrell, leave her alone, just stop. Terrell, leave it alone, like, just stop, leave her alone. But by then, it seemed like everything raveling so fast. And I just remember her screaming. And I'm like, Terrell, let her go, just let her go. Just please let her go.
Patricia says it's then that Terrell forces LaToya into the trunk of the car and tells Patricia to keep driving.
And I just look, I see in the rearview mirror the trunk come up. And I heard a boom, boom, boom. And we get off on that first exit, maybe the second. And I see her running. I'm like, Rail, just let her go, let her go, let her go. He get back up on the exit, trying to get her. By then, she gone.
It was very clear that Patricia was involved and not a victim at this point. As soon as she had said something that was self-incriminating, she was no longer free to leave.
That's the only thing I do remember. You know, Patricia, you're under arrest. And I just remember, like, can I call Mama to get my son? She's like, yeah, I call. And I called her for phone. I'm like, well, I guess they went to my mom's house looking for me. She's like, sweetie, what's going on? Where's LaToya? It's police is here. Now my mom hysterical crying. So I said, Mom, I'm gonna let the detective tell you.
And she told me, she said, your daughter's involved in the kidnapping. You know, it's serious charges. Patricia's got some serious things against her.
At the conclusion of our interview, she was handcuffed. She was walked downstairs to our booking area, and she was placed in a holding cell until she was formally charged.
On October 23, 2015, just 1 week after the kidnapping of LaToya Britton, Patricia Jernigan and Terrell Smith are arraigned together.
In that courtroom when they were being arraigned, the realization had come that she wasn't going home to her son, that she was in too deep because of this man.
We got arraigned, and I remember standing there next to him. They had us cuffed together. And I remember the judge like, Patricia, are you aware you standing next to a fourth-time individual?
When Patricia first met Terrell Smith, he seemed like the perfect man for her.
I was in the middle of the church, and he came approaching me, like, can I take him to the vending machine? I'm like, yeah. So I walked with them with Mari to the vending machine. Then he asked me, am I single? I'm like, yeah. He said, you know, you should call me. He said, but stop like this. He said, but I just want to be honest with you. I'm just getting out of prison and I'm on tether. he's on GPS tether, which means he's being monitored and watched by his parole officer.
She believed that if God can forgive people, who are we not to forgive? You know, but I had, you know, my doubts. You know, this is my daughter, my baby.
He told me in the beginning that he got incarcerated for carjacking. Him and his girlfriend was into it. The car was in her name. He took the car, she reported it, but it was more to it.
Patricia never pressed Terrell on what really landed him in prison.
A lot of times, because you want something so bad, you tend to make excuses. So a lot of red flags are overlooked by the mentality of, I want what I want, so I will overlook that, and then maybe I can fix it.
Things seemed so right in the beginning. It seemed like, okay, you know, Trish, this your person. And he was a gentleman, so respectable. Everything felt right.
Handcuffed together and standing just inches from Terrell, Patricia learns for the first time why he had been in prison before they met. Carrying a concealed weapon, firearm felony, carjacking, and unlawful imprisonment.
And I just remember crying, looked over at him, nothing. He didn't say nothing, no emotion.
Initially, both Patricia and Terrell were charged with the same crimes because of their involvement together. They were charged with kidnapping, torture, criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, and armed robbery.
At this point, I was telling her, sweetie, we just want you to do what is right. Cooperate. Tell the truth. But at this point, she still was not talking because Terrell was still in her head. And it took maybe a couple weeks of me going back and forth, getting in her ear, that she finally started breaking down and being honest of the extent of what had happened that night.
Finally, Patricia requests to meet with Detective Wilson one more time.
This is when she opened up more. She talked about the plan, that LaToya was going to be that conquest for Terrell, that she wanted to make her boyfriend happy. And she said the whole story about giving her money for the cell phone bill, that was all fabricated. That was just something to save herself during the initial interview with me. She talked about the abuse that she had endured through the years while dating Terrell. So she had seen his real gun before and was in fear of him. Her biggest fear was that if she didn't help him and participate and orchestrate this, that she would be killed alongside LaToya at the conclusion of this.
Prosecutors approach Patricia about a possible reduced sentence if she agrees to testify against Terrell Smith.
My lawyer said if I go to trial, I could get more time than him because he wasn't able to get to her if it wasn't for me. They said, you gotta testify, you gotta go to court, you gotta take the stand. I said, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I was willing to take this 15.
Patricia Jernigan is being held in Wayne County Jail awaiting trial for the attempted kidnapping of LaToya Britton. Prosecutors have offered a reduced sentence if Patricia agrees to testify against Terrell Smith. But so far, she's been too terrified to take the stand against her ex-boyfriend.
I remember crying, talking to my mama, and I remember my mama saying, you know what, sweetie? If you're not trying to testify against him, don't worry about seeing your son. Me and your daddy would get custody of him. It's like, we done. And from that moment, that's when I got the courage to testify.
As prosecutors build a case against Terrell Smith, they learn more about how he was able to so quickly get Patricia on board with his twisted plan.
He wanted to try to prove himself to be that good young man who could be a father figure to Patricia's son.
But after Patricia and Terrell got an apartment together, The relationship turned quickly.
I noticed that he always wanted to see my phone, see who I'm texting, who am I talking to. If I didn't answer his phone call at a certain time or I missed a phone call, then it went from he wanted my Facebook passwords. So I did it, but then it got to him messaging people, seeing who am I talking to, messaging guys acting like me. It just got too much, and then we got to arguing about his controlling ways. And that's when I really saw that dark side of him.
While she was with Terrell, not only was he taking her employment money, her income tax money, her child care, he was taking her child support. He was taking that.
Yeah, I was questioning it. And I'm like, was this a good choice? Am I making the right decision? Like, sweetie, get out of it. But then, you know, I'm on the other side, like, I love him, he loved me. Like, it get better, it get better, it get better. And it didn't. It started off as loving. Beautiful. Sex was normal. But as it progressed, it started being like it's forced. Terrell wanted to do threesomes. I wasn't experienced with that, you know? I didn't know. I wasn't into that. But I wanted to please him, wanted to satisfy him.
When the level of intimacy is introduced into any relationship, it then changes the dynamics for the person. A lot of times it's an uncomfortable feeling, but you negate that feeling because you're like, well, he loves me.
It went far as Terrell would meet women off different dating apps and bring them home. Then it went to him trying to get my friends, trying to talk to my friends. He been wanted LaToya. He had this sick obsession with her. He came up with this plan that he wanted LaToya.
Terrell wants to have not only control over Patricia's life, but he also wants to break LaToya.
Yeah, me and Toya stopped being friends because of Terrell. So he got to texting LaToya, acting like me. It was his phone number, but Toya didn't even know my phone number. It was him, acting like me and him broke up. I don't know, it's like he had a hold on me, like some ungodly hold on me.
Even behind the thick walls of jail, Terrell tries to control Patricia.
What he was doing in the interim between the arraignment and the trial, he somehow found a way to get messages to Patricia in jail to get her not to talk or to flip on him.
You still won't let me be free. You took so much from me. You still won't let me go.
Terrell's trial finally begins on April 13th, 2016. On the morning Patricia was scheduled to testify, she didn't think she could pull it off.
You get bonded over to Frank Murphy, you know, the big court. I'm terrified, like, I'm scared. And I just remember the bailiff, the officer opening the door. Are you ready? As I'm walking, I'm crying, and I stop. He said, you can do this. Just remember him telling me, you can do this. You're gonna be okay.
Facing charges of kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, armed robbery, and criminal sexual conduct, Terrell Smith goes on trial in April of 2016. His former girlfriend and alleged co-conspirator, Patricia Jernigan, is the prosecution's star witness.
And they asked me this hard question was, what was he gonna do to her? And I told her, he was gonna rape her. He wanted me to watch. Toya, she screams, Trish. And that's when I just got to crying.
The entire truth behind it was that the plan was to kidnap, rape, and then kill LaToya. LaToya didn't know about it. Normally, if I know about it, I would give the victim a heads up. I didn't know until Patricia was up on that stand talking about it. So when it came out, LaToya's reaction was so raw, which made it even more raw for Patricia. The jury ended up finding Terrell guilty on all counts. He was subsequently sentenced to 42 to 65 years at the Michigan Department of Corrections that he's serving out in northern Michigan at this time.
In return for her testimony, Patricia is given a reduced sentence.
And the sentencing, the judge told Patricia what the verdict was. It had been passed down. And, you know, her time would be 5 to 15 years. And we looking at her with tears. At this point, I've never seen my husband cry. He's looking at her with tears. I'm looking at her with tears. We're constrained. There's nothing we can do to help her.
I have this saying where I'm built to last. That's who I say I am. My first 2 years was hard. I lost my daddy. My daddy died. And the hardest thing is burying somebody in prison. That's the hardest thing ever. And I never got to apologize to my daddy. Like, I never got to deeply apologize to him. And I always had like this thing in my mind that like I put so much grief and burden on my daddy that helped kill him. Like, you know, you think like that.
With good behavior and credit for time served, Patricia is eligible for parole after 4.5 years in prison.
I remember going to the parole agent, and I just remember like, just, you want to get out of here? Just be honest. And he asked me like, why are you here? And I told him. I said I was so in love with this man. This man had such a hold on me that I didn't care about nothing or no one. I was willing to do any and everything for this man. And I remember his answer was like, that's it. He said, you got a question for me? I'm like, do I got my parole? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, yes, after 5 years, I'm going home.
For Patricia, full recovery will take some time.
Why am I choosing to do it now? To help with my journey. I'm tired of like keeping this a secret. Because how am I ever gonna heal for something if I'm keeping this a secret? Because he had messed me up in so many areas that I'm trying to still recover and rebuild myself as a woman.
Unfortunately, we see a lot of these circumstances to where women are put into positions to where they end up doing something that they don't necessarily want to do because of the actions of their partners.
She knew in her heart that it didn't feel right, but she couldn't reach out and she couldn't ask for that help. So I would just encourage people to reach out and ask for that help because it is there and it is available, and you don't have to be stuck in a situation like this.
With any woman, we have intuition. Learn how to stop ignoring your intuition. Learn how to ask for the things that you need.
For LaToya Britton, her journey to recovery is also just beginning.
For LaToya, I mean, this is something that will never go away. It will haunt her forever, not only mentally, but the physical scars that are on her.
Toya, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's all I can say. I'm sorry. I'd do anything to take that night back. I'd do it. But now it's just like, I guess silence is the best. Because now we're grown. We're 31. So it's like so much time has passed, and I just hope one day she could ever forgive me. One day.
Love only takes 1 second, one spark of attraction, one touch, one kiss, one whispered yes.
I think she went too far.
And when you live life in a ride or die fast lane, 1 second is sometimes all that you get.
I think she was mainly scared.
But real love is built for the long haul. Moments, hours, days.
Brianna really felt like she had knew him forever.
If we're moving too fast, we run the risk of losing ourselves and our partner in the blink of an eye. January 31st, 2016. A harsh winter wind blows through Chicago's Englewood neighborhood.
Englewood is on the south side of Chicago. It encompasses the Englewood and West Englewood communities.
Inglewood, pretty much family orientated.
Well, they're basically working people, but there was a decent amount of drugs and gang activity in that area.
On this peaceful night in Englewood, 42-year-old Renee Ballard, her 22-year-old daughter Brianna, and her niece Tamika are playing a marathon game of gin rummy.
I was winning as always, they always losing. And it was just a cool, good vibe. It was like 2-ish in the morning.
There were 3 women in the dining room that were playing cards at that time.
But just then, there's a surprise interruption.
Someone was knocking. Brianna got up and answered the door. When Brianna was at the door, we heard her and another female talking at first.
And Brianna Anderson's like, I just don't know what you're talking about.
Then the female got louder. Brianna got louder. That's what made us get up.
At that time, the other 2 women that were playing cards had came to the door.
At the door, Renee and Tamika discover Brianna face to face with a couple in their 20s. Clearly, the 2 strangers have both had a rough night.
He was like so drunk, he was leaning on the wall. And I'm like, you know, what's going on? And she was like, somebody in this house robbed us. Like, you know, you got the wrong house. It couldn't happen here.
Renee's explanation only makes the 2 strangers angrier at her and at each other.
They started arguing together, and she barely pushed him, and he flew down the stairs. He got up staggering drunk, coming back up the stairs. And that's when I seen the gun.
Renee doesn't hesitate.
I panicked. I snatched Brianna in the door and slammed it and locked it.
Back inside the house, the 3 women struggle to make sense of what just happened.
He just started kicking. We just heard kicking. And he started kicking and kicking and kicking.
A moment later, the front door gives in. At 4:40 a.m., an operator at Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications Center logs a frantic incoming call.
I'm telling them that, you know, someone just broke into my house. He has a gun. And now I hear chaos downstairs. Like, where they at?
The 911 operator assures Renee that help is coming.
I can only imagine how frightening that was for her and her family.
Her home attacked, her family at risk. Renee waits helplessly for assistance, praying that police will arrive in time.
This was the first time I ever felt unsafe in the house. I didn't even think they was going to get through the door.
Chicago-born and bred, Renee Ballard felt a deep pride in her city.
I'm originally from Chicago, and my grandmother was born and raised here, and she was a Chicago fan. I'm just Chicago. I don't want to go nowhere else.
In 1996, Renee moved into a modest single-family rental on South Paulina.
The home was a 2-story, cinder block on the first floor, frame on the second floor type of house. Kind of like a basic Chicago home. Most homes are built similar to that.
The two-story house may have looked modest, but Renee saw it as a home she could share with her kids and their kids.
It was me, my son, my daughter, and his girlfriend living there at the time.
Renee's extended family quickly made the place their own.
Some of the things we loved to do was cooking, barbecuing, playing cards, and just having a good time until a knock at the door. And everything just was chaos after that.
A little before 5 a.m., Chicago police officers arrive at Renee's home.
When they get to the home, they could hear screaming coming from the house.
They draw their weapons and slowly walk up the entrance steps.
In a situation like that, we're trained to go in because lives are at stake.
Once inside, they see signs of struggle as they work their way toward the living room.
They walked between the living room and dining room. They saw Charles Smith standing in the dining room with a gun in his hand. One of the police officers yelled, "Stop, drop the gun, police."
The gunman ignores their order and takes aim.
Fired a shot, and then there was just a barrage of gunfire after that.
Charles Smith reacted by shooting at them, and the police officers started to retreat, but they were also shooting back.
Once outside, the officers call for backup.
One of the officers called for a 10-1, which is an emergency response for an officer in need of assistance.
When the barrage of gunfire ends, the house falls quiet.
I was so scared. It just got dead silence.
On the south side of Chicago, two first responding police officers have exchanged gunshots with one of a pair of home invaders.
They barged into the house, basically, and what amounted to basically holding the family hostage.
The male half of the couple ambushed the police on the first floor of the house.
The two police officers backed out of the house and called for reinforcements. They did not know if they had hit the offender.
Miraculously, neither officer has been hit.
They waited until backup came in, and then they re-entered the house.
Inside the house, police discover the gunman motionless on the dining room floor.
They found Charles Smith laying face down with a gunshot wound to his right abdomen. And at that point, he was deceased.
A .40 caliber handgun lies nearby the man, and a distraught young woman cries over him. Police detain the young woman. A preliminary check tells them the man is named Charles Smith.
The woman who was with him was a woman named Breonna Patterson, and she was arrested.
What drove Smith to force his way into this house and endanger this family? His apparent accomplice, Breonna Patterson, is in no shape to provide any answers.
She was so drunk and so traumatized that police decided to hold her until she could be questioned.
Police and prosecutors know better than to rely on somebody that's as wasted as she is.
Inside her upstairs bedroom, Renee Ballard hears approaching footsteps.
My door flew open, and it was the police telling me to put my hands up, come out, and, proceeded to walk downstairs.
Once downstairs, Renee is overjoyed to discover that her family made it through safe and sound.
Renee's daughter, Breonna, took the worst of it.
Breonna was still crying. She was shaking. It was just a hard part. Ooh. It was just hard to see. But she was fine physically.
Their attackers were not so lucky.
I know he was deceased because they had it blocked off, and Miss Patterson was nowhere to be found.
Officers swiftly escort the family outside. Arriving investigators begin scrutinizing the crime scene, including the two responding officers.
Whenever an officer is involved in a shooting now, they have to take a mandatory 30-day leave from the department.
They might work inside doing administrative duties, until the investigation is over. We normally take their guns, we do ballistics on their guns to find out which officer actually fired his weapon or her weapon.
And that's regardless of whether the shooting is considered justified or out of policy.
At this moment, Chicago police are under ferocious community and media scrutiny in the wake of recent police killings.
At the end of 2015, there was a court order that forced the city of Chicago to release video of the fatal shooting of Laquan McDonald. Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times by a Chicago police officer. He was walking down a street with a knife, and the controversy surrounding that shooting was that when the shooting happened, the initial police narrative that came out about the McDonald shooting was that he had lunged at police with a knife before he was shot. An independent journalist had gotten a tip that basically there was video of this. The city's position was, well, it's under investigation, so we can't, we're not going to release the video. Eventually, the city lost that argument. What the video showed was basically something totally different of what happened.
The suppressed video clearly showed the police officer deliberately shooting McDonald in the back as he walked away. For many in the community, it was the last straw.
Well, the police department in Chicago has always had a problem with getting communities to trust them. There's a lot of people on the South and West Sides who, don't trust the police. These were such high-profile incidents, it only exacerbates that deeply rooted distrust.
For police, it's a two-way street.
Well, for the more mature crowd, the older crowd, middle-aged crowd, it helped because we were communicating with the people that lived in that neighborhood. The only issues that we had was the younger people that didn't want to have any interaction with the police whatsoever. And, with the way things were, it's a lot easier for them to sell drugs on the street than to finish school, go to college, pay for college. When it comes to a couple of bad apples, police conduct, it makes the police department initiated like body cameras, and we went through retraining protocols as far as how we handle situations. So it's less hands-on and more verbal communication with people on the street.
Yet another police shooting so early in the year is a bad look for local law enforcement.
This was only within a couple months of the release of the McDonald video.
Would Charles Smith's death add fuel to the ongoing controversy?
Whenever a police shooting at that point in time happened, you could bet that the media was going to pay extra special attention to it because the police shot and killed someone.
Veteran Chicago police detective Earl Parks takes the lead role in the investigation.
I got to the home probably about 35 minutes after the incident happened. Well, when I walked into the home, I saw bullet holes in the wall, the left wall, like someone that was shooting right through the wall at someone or shooting back. I saw a card table, and I saw Charles Smith on the floor. Not far from him, I saw a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun on the floor in slide lock, which means that the person had emptied out the gun.
Outside, uniform officers begin knocking on doors.
Police are looking for anything that might make sense of this home invasion.
Neighbors confirm that while drug sales and accompanying violence may be rampant elsewhere in Inglewood, this block of South Paulina is relatively peaceful.
So on my block, it was calm, cool. The surrounding areas was the drug selling, the gang violence.
Renee Ballard and her family wait outside in separate police cars.
I know they had to figure out everything, who was who and what was what.
We take the witnesses in separately, and we take any offenders in separately and put them in separate rooms so that we can hear the original story from each individual.
They're not gonna put you together because you can collaborate your stories. So they put us all in separate police cars.
But as minutes turn to hours, Renee has had enough.
We stayed in the police car for like a good seemed like 3 hours. They just had us sitting there while they was doing their investigation.
Finally, Renee, her daughter Brianna, her niece, and the rest of the extended family are transported to area headquarters for interviewing.
I was mad. I wanted to go. They weren't telling us nothing. And the ordeal was just crazy.
With Brianna Patterson too drunk to question, police look forward to whatever Renee and her family have to say.
The only witnesses they had was the family. It seems inconceivable that all this happened over nothing.
What was the connection between this family and Charles Smith and Brianna Patterson that cost a young man's life? After a late-night home invasion leaves 29-year-old intruder Charles Smith dead, Chicago police are investigating what led to the fatal encounter. Though in custody for her part in the attack, 22-year-old Brianna Patterson is in no condition to provide answers.
I could see that she was shaken and she was somewhat intoxicated. So at that time, because of her condition, we had to wait and kind of let her sober up before we could interview her about the incident. So what we did was we started interviewing the other ladies in the house, the victims at that point, and gave her some time to sober up.
When we got to the police station, they put all of us in separate rooms.
Alone in an interview room, Renee Ballard struggles to make sense of what had happened earlier that morning.
I was shaken up. I still couldn't believe that this had happened to us in my house. So when the police came in and told me Mr. Smith was deceased, I didn't feel anything because of the ordeal that he just went through.
What she hears next is more of a shock.
It was like, well, Brianna is getting charged too. I'm like, Brianna?
My daughter.
How's she getting charged? They say, wait, we got a Brianna Anderson and a Brianna Patterson.
Renee's daughter and Charles Smith's accomplice have first names that sound exactly alike.
And they was like, no, Brianna Patterson.
Now, police want to hear from Renee's own lips just what happened inside the house on South Paulina Street.
I believe it was Renee Ballard that said he's got a gun. She shut the door and locked it, and then they ran back into the house. At that time, Charles Smith shattered the screen door and kicked in the inner security door.
Smith and Patterson barge into the house, and everyone is kind of, taking cover.
And when he kicked and the door flew in, I flew because the cordless phone was in my daughter's Brianna room. So I snatched the phone. My room was upstairs, so I ran up the stairs.
Brianna Anderson and Tamika Ross ran into the first bedroom right off of the dining room. Renee Ballard ran upstairs and called the police.
I just got on the phone calling 911, asking them to please come and help us.
From her hiding place, Renee can only hear what her daughter and niece are going through on the floor below.
My daughter, Brianna Anderson, was screaming, crying for help, telling them they had the wrong house. And I'm listening to all this. I heard her scream. I don't know if she alive or dead. I heard glass busting. I heard my daughter screaming. The screams that she was just screaming was so heartfelt.
In an adjacent interview room, Brianna Anderson describes the ordeal to police.
Brianna Patterson and Charles Smith entered the residence, at which time they found Tamika Ross and Brianna Anderson in that front bedroom just to the left of the dining room. Charles Smith was standing with the gun pointed at the two women.
Smith lunged at Brianna Anderson.
He put the gun up to her head, telling her he'll kill her and threatening her.
She's just basically basically pleading with her life, saying, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me.
No, please, y'all got the wrong house. I mean, it was like I said, her screams was just so terrifying.
Not satisfied with her answers, Smith dragged the terrified young woman from the room.
Mr. Smith proceeded to take my daughter around the house looking for a perpetrator. While he was pointing a gun at her, Miss Patterson was trashing the house. She threw the TV down. She just did a lot of stuff.
Upstairs, Renee Ballard knew it was only a matter of time before she was discovered.
I thought that they was gonna come upstairs. I wouldn't have knew what to do. I probably would have really had a heart attack then.
But just then, first responders arrived on the scene.
Anderson hears squeak at the door, thinking somebody's there.
He stepped back out of the bedroom, back into the dining room, and was looking towards the front.
And then there's a gunshot and then like a barrage of gunshots. While the shots rang out, Brianna Anderson dove to the floor for cover.
In the immediate silence that followed, Renee Ballard assumed the worst.
I was so scared because I thought that he had killed, my daughter or my niece or her baby for that matter.
To her surprise, she discovers that one of the attackers is as scared as she is.
So once I heard the gun go off, Miss Patterson came upstairs asking for help for us to help her boyfriend because he had been shot. She knocked on my room door, but I never opened the door to even see who she was.
Like everything else about the assault, it simply made no sense.
I thought it was strange when she came upstairs asking for help, knowing that her man had just came in and did a home invasion. You saying he's shot and you want help from us? Like, I didn't understand that.
Individual interviews with the separated family members all tell the same story.
If there is a connection between the family and their attackers, the police haven't found it yet.
Officers drive Renee Ballard, her daughter Brianna Anderson, and the rest of the family back to the house on South Paulina.
This big ordeal had just happened, but we went home.
They're exhausted. They hadn't processed the trauma. They just wanted to be together back home.
But when they arrive home, they're quickly reminded that it will be some time before they can put the experience behind them.
So everything that they destroyed before we left, it was destroyed when we came back. They left a big pile of blood, his blood on our floor, and I couldn't believe it.
Now police have one remaining eyewitness to question, Brianna Patterson. In custody and awaiting charges, Brianna has only just sobered up enough to be interviewed on the record.
Brianna Patterson is the only person left alive that can explain what her and Charles Smith were doing there that night.
The heartbroken 20-year-old is in for an entirely new shock.
It just takes 1 second, one choice, and your whole life can change for good or bad. And Brianna's choice to back up her man was the worst choice of her life.
A fatal home invasion on the south side of Chicago has left Renee Ballard's extended family picking up the pieces.
We started, getting everything back to normal, putting stuff back, throwing stuff away.
While at Chicago's Area South Police Headquarters, detectives prepared to finally interview 20-year-old Brianna Patterson about her part in the seemingly unprovoked fatal attack.
Brianna Patterson was too drunk to be questioned when police took her into custody.
We gave her some food and stuff like that, and basically just waited until her demeanor had changed.
Brianna was born and raised in West Englewood.
Englewood is like a city within a city. It's amazing how many people and places are connected there.
Growing up, the attractive young woman received plenty of attention from the boys on her block.
Brianna had a good time, for sure. Who doesn't when they're young and have the chance?
But as she grew into adulthood, Brianna Patterson knew she wanted more than just a series of hookups.
Girls oftentimes mature much faster than boys. They have to. The boys that she met were all about games and really nothing more. And Brianna knew that she needed more. She really needed for there to be a deeper connection.
Then one night at a house party, she caught a new rapper on the scene calling himself Fifth Money. She recognized him as Charles Smith from the block. Their connection was instant.
They recognized each other from Woolcut Avenue, but they also saw and felt something beyond that shared past.
Whether he was Fifth Money on stage or Charles from the block just chilling, she felt like she knew him forever.
Within a year, both Charles and Brianna had to admit that what they had together was special and unique, that they needed to be exclusive.
The love had been there for some time. It was just that the commitment took a little bit longer to happen. Brianna was soon pregnant with Charles's baby.
Around the same time that Brianna gave birth, Brianna Patterson.
She knew that her boyfriend had died, but I think as she sobered up, she started to realize the ramifications of what he did and what she did.
Brianna begins by telling detectives what led her and Charles to that house in the first place.
Charles Smith and Brianna Patterson had been at that location about 3 weeks prior.
Like many of Chicago's residential neighborhoods, the homes on South Paulina Avenue are honeycombed with high-walled alleys called gangways.
Basically, it's just a sidewalk going from the front of the house to the rear alley.
A lot of people use the breezeways as a shortcut so they won't have to walk around the whole block.
So anyone can walk in between the gangways, in and out. The people who sell drugs, they tend to, at nighttime, secrete themselves in the gangways, in between the houses.
And that's just what lured Brianna Patterson and Charles Smith to South Paulina Avenue less than a month before.
She told us that they had came to buy some drugs 3 weeks earlier, and that the person that came out of that gangway at 7305 South Paulina attempted to rob them instead of sell them drugs.
Charles Smith moved quickly.
When the guy came up to him and pulled a gun out, their reaction was to hit the gas and take off.
It was a close call, but no one was harmed, including their baby who was in the back seat at the time.
Brianna says for Charles, it was unforgivable disrespect.
It was eating away at Charles Smith, that some guy tried to rob him, and he wanted to seek revenge against that guy.
Especially when he drank.
I don't think that none of that would have happened if they had not been drinking that night.
One unlucky night isn't something you obsess over. At least nobody was hurt. Put a period on it and move on.
It's not a beef, it's just random. You were scoring drugs. It comes with the territory. What did you expect?
Fast forward to January 31st, 2016. So on that night, because he had been drinking, celebrating his upcoming birthday, that still stuck in his head.
Brianna says the more he drank that night, the more Charles kept coming back to the robbery and the insult he felt. And he was convinced it had something to do with the house on South Paulina.
And they thought that the robber either went into the house or went through the house.
So he and Brianna drove past that location twice, and then he parked his vehicle across the street from that location.
Brianna tells detectives Charles ordered her out of the car.
They both got out of the vehicle and they walked over to the house and started banging on the door.
She really didn't want to do it, but he was making her do it.
I can tell by her demeanor talking to her, she wasn't hardcore. She more or less like a young lady that followed her boyfriend into him doing something.
Miss Patterson really didn't even want to knock on the door.
Breonna Patterson tells police that she tried to defuse the situation before it started, but it all came out wrong.
So Miss Patterson and Mr. Smith got to arguing because I guess she wasn't doing things as fast as he wanted her to do them.
I think that because, she was intoxicated, she went too far.
They started arguing amongst each other. And she pushed him to the wall, and he pushed her. And when she pushed him again, that's when he flew down the stairs.
When Charles drew his gun, in the heat of the moment, Breonna says she went with it.
And she was just, had his back, so to speak.
A moment later, they were both inside, and Charles and Breonna's fates were sealed.
If you have the nerve to disrupt and terrify a whole family, you better be prepared for the whole weight of the law to come down on you. In a police interview room, Breonna Patterson recounts the events of a drunken, violent home invasion that cost her boyfriend's life.
Once Breonna decided she was all in, she and Charles Smith beat down the door and were inside in moments.
And Miss Patterson was throwing stuff, slamming stuff. They was just doing any type of thing.
The more things she broke, the more she felt like what they were doing was right.
So she was kind of like supporting him, whatever he wanted to do.
Until police arrived.
When the police came in, Charles Smith started shooting at the police returned fire, and Charles Smith was struck and killed.
After the shooting, Patterson went out there and saw that Charles Smith had been shot in the stomach, and Patterson was obviously very affected by it because he was lying there dying.
Convinced police would kill her next, she ran up the stairs begging the women she'd just terrorized to help her.
I guess she finally realized it was real then.
Instead, she came downstairs to find her man dead and an army of police taking control of the scene. Now sober, sorry, and under arrest, Breonna says she was drunk. Charles was drunk. They were in the wrong, and the whole thing was a tragic case of mistaken identity.
Breonna Patterson was upset, very emotional, crying, and scared because she, at this time, she had sobered up and she knew how serious this was.
Ultimately, no one was hurt except Charles. Now she was left to care for their son by herself.
But it's far more serious than she realizes. Her interview concluded, detectives drop a bombshell. The state's attorney's office will seek to indict Breonna Patterson for Charles Smith's murder.
In the state of Illinois, if you take any kind of part in a crime which results in someone's death, you can also be charged with that person's death.
It's called felony murder. It basically means if you commit a crime and someone dies, it's on you.
Like if somebody robs a bank and there's some person out at the doorway watching for the police, if the person that goes in that bank shoots someone, the person that's doing the lookout is just as culpable as the person inside of the bank that shot someone.
If she's convicted on a charge of felony murder, Breonna Patterson will spend the rest of her life in jail for killing her man, Charles Smith.
So in that incident with Breonna Patterson, she took part in the crime of the home invasion. She went in with Charles Smith. She interrogated the victims. She knocked over TVs, trying to intimidate them.
At the same time, an exhaustive internal investigation about the shooting itself has finished.
We have to basically track every bullet that comes out of an officer's gun. All the pegs have to fall into place. If not, then Now you're looking at suspension, fired, or in some cases, we can go to jail if we do something that we're not supposed to do.
The internal review concludes that the two officers handled the hostage situation entirely by the book. Renee Ballard and Brianna Anderson completely agree.
They were relieved when the police got there because they were in fear of their life. I mean, Charles Smith was pointing the gun at their heads.
Brianna Anderson praised the police response and basically said that had they not responded, everything for her probably could have taken a turn for the worse.
The cops saved her life.
Grand jury subpoenas in hand, Renee and her family wait their turn to give testimony that may lead to a life sentence for Breonna Patterson.
Me, Tamika, and Brianna was in the waiting room that they have us in. And one at a time, they called our names, and we went in front of the grand jury to testify about the ordeal.
Based on the evidence, the grand jury elects to indict Breonna Patterson on the felony murder charge.
So because of her active participation in the home invasion, she was charged with felony murder, even though she wasn't the one who killed Smith. In addition to that, she was charged with home invasion.
If she's convicted at trial, Breonna could spend the rest of her life in prison.
I know that's how the law works. If you're with someone and they do a crime, and you're with them, that's accessory, so you're going down too.
Charles Smith, aka rapper Fifth Money, is dead. The victim of a gunshot wound he sustained at the hands of police while engaged in a chaotic and violent home invasion. But now, Charles's grieving girlfriend and accomplice must bear the legal weight of a killing she herself didn't commit.
So I knew Miss Patterson was going to get some time because she was with him.
I mean, I actually felt bad that she ended up getting charged with that crime because I think she was only 20 years old at that time.
But on the eve of trial, Breonna's fate takes another turn.
A lot of times the state's attorney will come to you and they'll offer you a deal.
What ended up happening in this case is that she ended up pleading guilty to home invasion, which in itself is a very serious crime. There's a reason that can lead to serious prison time because you're basically disrupting someone's sanctuary and, threatening to take their life away in many of those cases.
On December 20th, 2017, Breonna Patterson is transported to Logan Correctional Center to begin doing her time for home invasion with a firearm.
In this case, she was sentenced to 18 years in prison.
She was granted parole in May of 2023. In the years since Charles Smith's death, Chicago has shown signs of change.
In 2021, the state of Illinois changed part of the felony murder statute where if two people are committing a crime and during the course of that crime, a third party intervenes and kills one of the participants in that crime, the surviving participant cannot be charged with felony murder. It's very likely that had this crime was committed now, she would not have been charged with felony murder.
Nowadays, we wear body-worn cameras. They have cameras in the vehicles. The police department has evolved, and we are held to a higher standard when we get involved into police shootings.
Renee Ballard ultimately realized that in order to move on, she needed a change of her own.
6 months later, I moved, where it's security, or you got to get buzzed up. Nothing that you could just walk straight up to my house and boom, you're there. I feel Miss Patterson was feared for her life as well. That's probably why she did go as far as she did with the situation with him. The alcohol, that's all I can say.
And I think that that was mostly because of being under the influence at that time. But, you know, some people, when they get intoxicated and stuff like that, they make the wrong decisions.